It was the coldest night of the year when he found her, barely 18, pregnant, and shivering alone by the roadside. He didn't ask questions. He just opened the door. What neither of them knew then was that one quiet act of kindness would change the course of 2 lives, and years later, she'd be the one holding his hand when the world tried to take him away. This isn't just a story of survival. It's a story of second chances, unexpected family, and the kind of love that rebuilds everything. If you believe in the quiet power of compassion, in stories where broken things are made whole again, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss a single chapter. Now, let's begin. The snow had been falling since mid-afternoon, coating the sleepy Vermont town in a thick, silencing blanket. Streetlights glowed like amber orbs through the haze, and the roads had thinned, 1 car at a time, as people hurried home to beat the storm. But Bo Callahan wasn't home yet. He leaned forward, squinting through the windshield as the wipers slashed at the falling snow. His old Chevy truck groaned in protest as it climbed the final hill toward the wooded road leading home. The heater coughed lukewarm air, barely holding off the chill creeping in through worn seams. He was already late. Maisie would be waiting, probably pretending not to worry. Bo shifted in his seat, his lower back stiff from hours bent over the tiny gears of a grandfather clock someone had brought in for repair. He rubbed his hands together, fingers still smelling faintly of oil and cedar. Home was a few minutes away, a small wood cabin tucked into the trees. Quiet, familiar, predictable. He liked it that way, but that night would be the last ordinary night for a very long time. As the truck rounded a bend, the headlights swept over a dark shape on the shoulder of the road. At first, he thought it was a deer, maybe a bag of trash. Then it moved. Bo hit the brakes. The tires crunched to a stop just past the figure. He reversed a few feet, and the beams fell on something that twisted his gut with an old, aching instinct. A girl, no, a young woman, sat hunched in the snow, arms wrapped around her knees, coat too thin, face hidden behind a curtain of dark hair matted with flakes. And she was pregnant. He saw it clearly now. Her belly was full and round beneath a threadbare sweatshirt that couldn't possibly be warm. Bo opened the door and stepped into the snow. The wind cut like a knife. "You all right?" he called. The girl flinched but didn't answer. He approached slowly, boots crunching with each step. Closer now, he could see the blue tinge around her lips, the tremble in her shoulders. Her face was young, too young, and her eyes, when she finally looked up, were a storm of pain, pride, and something close to defeat. "I'm fine," she rasped, voice barely more than a whisper. "You're not," Bo replied, not unkindly. "You'll freeze out here." "I said I'm fine." There was no defiance in her tone, just exhaustion, as if she'd used up all her anger long before now. Bo hesitated. He didn't take strangers home. He didn't interfere. Not since Ellen died. Not since he'd had to learn how to be both mother and father to Maisie. He lived simply, kept his world small, safe. But some part of him, a part he thought had frozen along with everything else, moved. "Look," he said gently. "I have a cabin just down the road. It's warm, dry, you don't have to talk. You can leave whenever you want. But I can't drive off and pretend I didn't see you." The girl looked away, snowflakes catching on her lashes. A long silence stretched between them. Then she nodded, barely. Bo exhaled and helped her to her feet. She stumbled, and he steadied her. She was light, frighteningly so. Once inside the truck, she curled into herself again, silent except for the occasional shiver. "What's your name?" he asked as they drove. She didn't answer. "That's okay," he said, watching her from the corner of his eye. "You can tell me when you're ready." The cabin welcomed them with the crackle of firewood and the soft scent of cinnamon and pine. Maisie had fallen asleep on the couch, a book open on her chest and a flashlight dimming in her hand. Bo gently took the book and blanket, covered her, and turned to see the girl standing in the entryway, dripping snow in silence. He gestured to the kitchen. "There's soup on the stove. I'll get you a towel." Still wordless, she followed him. Her hands trembled as she held the bowl of soup, but she ate slowly, with a quiet urgency that made him feel suddenly old and helpless. "You can sleep upstairs," he said after she'd finished. "It's not fancy, but it's warm. Bathroom's down the hall." The girl looked at him finally. Her eyes had softened, though her mouth was still a tight line. "Thank you," she said. 2 words. Enough. Bo nodded. "I'm Bo." She hesitated, then offered, "Lark." A bird in the snow, he thought. Fragile, out of place, but not broken, not yet. That night, after checking on Maisie and making sure Lark had what she needed, Bo stood alone by the fire, staring into the flames. He didn't know what he'd just brought into his home, into his life, but something told him this wasn't a detour. It was the beginning of a road he never knew he needed to take. Morning in the Callahan house came quietly, broken only by the hissing of the old kettle and the steady crackle of firewood in the hearth. Outside, the snow hadn't let up. It coated the trees, weighed down the porch rail, and silenced the world in a way only deep winter could. Inside, the warmth battled back the silence. Bo stood at the kitchen counter pouring 2 mugs of tea, one for himself, one for the girl still sleeping upstairs. Lark, the name had stayed with him all night, echoing softly in his thoughts like a wind chime in a forgotten attic. She hadn't said much, just a name, but the way she said it, flat but careful, told him everything he needed to know. She didn't give it easily, which meant she didn't trust easily. And trust was something hard-earned when you'd been left out in the cold, quite literally. Behind him, the sound of tiny footsteps. "Dad?" He turned to see Maisie standing in the doorway, blanket still wrapped around her shoulders, her curly hair a mess of sleep and static. She rubbed her eyes and looked up at him. "Who's that girl?" Bo knelt beside her, brushing a loose strand of hair from her cheek. "She needed help. She's staying for a little while." Maisie blinked. "Is she nice?" "I think so. She's just tired." Maisie nodded in that way kids do when they absorb more than you want them to, more than you think they can. She didn't ask more questions, just walked over to the fire and sat cross-legged on the rug, arms folded into her blanket like a cocoon. A few minutes later, Lark appeared at the top of the stairs, moving slowly. She was wearing a sweater Bo had left folded outside the door, far too big for her, but warmer than the torn coat from the night before. She held the railing tightly, one hand resting on her swollen belly. Her eyes scanned the room like someone used to being unwelcome. Bo saw it all, the practiced caution, the braced for rejection posture, the wall she built without realizing it. He offered her the mug of tea. She took it without a word. "This is my daughter, Maisie," he said gently. Maisie looked up, all eyes and softness. "Hi." Lark nodded. "Hi." Bo gestured to the table. "You hungry?" Lark hesitated. He watched the inner dialogue play out across her face, pride versus need. But finally, she nodded again and sat. Bo warmed up leftover biscuits and scrambled eggs while Maisie slid a drawing across the table. "This is you," she said, "and the baby." Lark stared at it. A stick figure with a round belly and a giant heart drawn in red crayon hovered over it. Her hand trembled slightly as she touched the paper. "Thanks," she said. Her voice cracked on the word. Maisie beamed. Later, after breakfast and dishes, Bo stepped outside to shovel the walk. Snow fell in lazy spirals now, thick and endless. As he worked, Tobias Knox from next door wandered over with his dog. "You got a visitor?" Tobias asked, voice low. Bo wiped sweat and snow from his brow. "Just someone who needed a warm place." Tobias tilted his head. "You sure about that? She's a kid, pregnant, scared. Still, you don't know her." Bo stopped shoveling. "You ever needed help, Toby?" The older man stared for a moment, then looked down at the snow. "Yeah, once, long time ago." Bo returned to his work without saying more. He didn't need Tobias's approval. What he needed was to follow what his gut told him, that this girl hadn't come into their lives by accident. That night, after Maisie went to bed and the house grew still, Bo found Lark sitting near the fire, clutching a worn spiral notebook. She didn't notice him at first. Her head was bowed, pen moving slowly, carefully across the page. Her free hand rested protectively over her belly. He didn't mean to startle her when he spoke, but the creak of the floorboard made her jump. "Sorry," he said. "Didn't mean to sneak up." Lark sat up straighter, holding the notebook close. "Are you writing?" he asked. She hesitated, then nodded. "Letters, to her." She looked down at her belly. Bo took a seat across from her, careful not to make her feel cornered. "That's a beautiful thing to do." She shrugged. "It's dumb." "No, it's not. I want her to know something real, even if I mess everything up." "You won't. You don't know that. I know you're writing to her. That already makes you a better mother than some." The fire popped softly. Lark stared into it. "My mom said I ruined everything, that I brought shame. My dad couldn't even look at me. Said I was just like my sister, ran off with the wrong guy, got dumped, came back with nothing." Bo leaned forward. "You didn't come back with nothing." Lark turned to him, brows tight. "What do I have? You've got a heartbeat, you've got a name, and now you've got a warm place to rest. That's not nothing." Her eyes glossed with tears, but she blinked them away. She reached for the fire poker, nudging the log to spark new life. Bo stood slowly. "If you want to stay, it's okay, as long as you need." She nodded. Just once. And Bo knew, beneath the shame, the frostbite of rejection, the loss of everything she thought she had, Lark was still fighting to believe she mattered, and he was going to help her remember. The snow didn't stop. By the third day, Vermont looked like a painting. Trees dressed in white, rooftops buried under soft mounds, streets empty save for the occasional plow. It was beautiful, yes, but also isolating. Winter had a way of making time stretch long and silent. Inside the Callahan cabin, life had settled into a delicate rhythm. Lark was quiet, but not withdrawn. She rose early, often before Bo, and would already be halfway through a cup of tea by the time he stumbled into the kitchen. She helped with breakfast, played board games with Maisie, folded laundry without being asked. She didn't speak much, but when she did, her voice was soft and steady, like someone learning how to belong without being a burden. Bo noticed. He noticed everything. He noticed how she ran her fingers across the wooden window frames like she was memorizing the texture of safety. He noticed how she lingered in the hallway after putting Maisie to bed, as if listening for a sound she hadn't heard in years. He noticed that she always sat by the fire, always with the notebook. And he noticed, perhaps most of all, that Lark never asked for anything, which made him want to offer more. Late one morning, the three of them were finishing breakfast when the power flickered and went out. The wind outside howled with sudden ferocity, slamming against the old house like it was trying to get in. A storm must have knocked something down, Bo muttered. Maisie's eyes grew wide. "What about the heater?" "We've got firewood," he said. "We'll be just fine." He stood and looked out the window. The snowdrift had nearly covered the bottom of the truck's tires. If they needed anything, they'd have to dig for it. Lark spoke up. "I can help." Bo turned to her. "With what?" "Firewood. I saw the shed when we pulled in that first night." Bo hesitated. "You shouldn't be lifting." "I'm pregnant, not helpless." There was no anger in her voice, just a quiet insistence. And Bo, to his own surprise, found himself smiling. "All right then," he said, "let's suit up." The wind cut through even their thickest coats as they trudged out to the woodshed behind the house. The snow reached Lark's knees, and Bo slowed his pace to match hers. He watched her closely, ready to stop her if she strained. But she moved with a kind of determination that didn't need pity. At the shed, he broke the silence. "You know, most people wouldn't be so quick to offer help." Lark glanced at him, cheeks red from the cold. "Most people don't want to feel useless." Bo nodded, understanding more than he let on. They worked in near silence, stacking logs into a large canvas carrier. Lark moved carefully, but efficiently. She wasn't afraid of the work. She was afraid of doing nothing. When they returned to the cabin, Maisie had already lit more kindling in the hearth. The three of them sat together on the rug in front of the fire, sipping cocoa wrapped in wool blankets. "I made a snow angel once," Maisie said, looking at Lark. "Do you want to make one with me tomorrow?" Lark gave a small, genuine smile. "Maybe." Maisie grinned, satisfied. That afternoon, the first crack appeared in the wall. They were sitting by the fire, Lark with her notebook, Bo polishing a pocket watch, when she asked softly, "What happened to your wife?" Bo looked up, surprised. He hadn't expected the question, not yet. He set down the watch. "She passed 3 years ago, cancer." Lark nodded. "I'm sorry." Maisie was 7. She doesn't remember the worst of it, thank God. Silence fell between them, not uncomfortable, just heavy with the weight of unspoken things. Lark spoke again. "You kept going." "I had to. That's not the same as wanting to." Bo looked at her. She wasn't fishing for sympathy. She wasn't asking for his pain. She was just seeing it. He nodded. "You're right. For a while, I didn't want to. But Maisie, she saved me from disappearing." Lark swallowed hard. Her hand instinctively rested on her belly. "I don't know if I'll be any good at it." "You don't have to know. You just have to stay." That evening, the wind died down. The power returned with a soft hum, and the lights flickered back to life. Maisie cheered from the kitchen. But Bo didn't move. He watched Lark as she tucked the notebook back into the little wooden box near the hearth. He'd seen her writing more today. Pages, maybe. Whatever she was recording in those letters, it was growing. Maybe hope, maybe grief, maybe both. He remembered Ellen doing the same thing, writing notes to Maisie when she was too sick to speak. Little letters, folded and tucked into drawers, words she didn't want to leave unsaid. He wondered if Lark knew what she was doing, planting something in that firelit corner of their home that would one day outlive the both of them. Later that night, after the house was quiet and only the fire remained, Bo stood in the doorway of the living room, watching the flames flicker over the wooden box. He didn't reach for it. Not yet. But he knew one day those letters would tell a story that began in the snow but didn't end there. A story of someone trying to matter, trying to stay, and maybe, just maybe, learning how to love again. The following days folded into each other like pages of a quiet, handwritten book. The snow outside remained deep, turning every errand into an effort. But inside the cabin, something began to thaw. Not the cold, but the silence. Lark spoke more now. Not in paragraphs, but in the occasional sentence that revealed fragments of who she used to be, who she might still become. Bo didn't push. He listened. He'd learned long ago that some people open slowly, like doors swollen with grief. Maisie seemed to sense it too. She asked fewer questions but offered more. Drawings, giggles, stories from school. She filled in the quiet the way only a child can, with a kind of light that didn't demand anything in return. And then there were the letters. One evening, as the wind patted gently at the windows and Maisie was upstairs getting ready for bed, Lark sat cross-legged on the rug by the fire. The notebook lay open in her lap. She was writing, her pen moving with slow purpose, pausing often as if choosing each word mattered. Beau sat across from her, a book in hand, though he hadn't turned a page in 10 minutes. Finally, he asked what had been pressing on his mind for days. "Would you mind if I asked what you're writing?" Lark looked up. For a moment, he thought she might retreat again, but she didn't. She closed the notebook softly. "They're letters," she said. "To her, to my daughter." Beau set his book down. "Hope, right?" Lark nodded. "I wanted to call her something else before, something fancier, but after I ended up here, it just felt right." "It is," Beau said. "It's a good name." She smiled faintly, then looked down. "I started writing them when I was still at home, before things got bad, before my parents found out. I thought maybe one day I'd give them to her when she was old enough, so she'd know the truth." "About what?" "About who I was before she existed. About what I was afraid of, what I loved, what I lost." Beau waited. He sensed more was coming, and it did, trembling but steady. "My mom told me I was selfish, that I'd ruined everything for them. College, the church reputation, the holidays. She said I'd break this baby like I broke myself, that I was disposable." Beau didn't move. The fire crackled. The shame in Lark's voice filled the room like a draft. "I didn't believe her, not at first, but after a while." She shrugged. "I started to wonder." Beau leaned forward, his voice low but firm. "You are not disposable." Lark looked up, and something fragile flickered behind her eyes. "I write because if I don't, the fear takes over," she said. "If I can't give Hope a perfect life, at least I can give her the truth. And maybe that'll be enough." Beau nodded slowly. "You're giving her more than truth. You're giving her a mother who fights for her, even when nobody fought for you." The silence that followed wasn't heavy. It was reverent, like the room knew something holy had just passed between them. The next morning, Lark surprised him. "I want to go outside," she said. Beau raised a brow. "You sure?" "I've been hiding for too long. I need to feel something real." So they bundled up, and Beau took her to the clearing behind the cabin. A gentle slope of snow-dusted meadow and trees bent low under the weight of winter. Maisie ran ahead, her laughter echoing like a songbird. "Let me show you how to make a snow angel," she shouted. Lark laughed, an honest, clear sound that startled even her. She lay down slowly, awkwardly, belly prominent, and moved her arms and legs in wide arcs. Maisie squealed with delight. Beau stood nearby, arms folded, watching something unfold that had nothing to do with snow. Lark sat up, breathless. "I haven't laughed like that in years." "Looked good on you," Beau said without thinking. She glanced at him, a flicker of something passing between them. Brief, uncertain, but not unwelcome. That night, after dinner and cocoa and a quiet story by the fire, Maisie went up to bed, leaving Beau and Lark once again in their now familiar ritual of evening silence. But tonight, Lark held out something to him. Her notebook. "You can read one," she said, "if you want." Beau took it carefully, like something sacred. He flipped through until he found a folded page, marked with a star. He opened it slowly and read aloud. Dear Hope, today I